Hi everybody, welcome to my channel. My name is Dennis. So today I'm going to do a build that's primarily focused on Be Quiet parts. It's going to have a case, it's going to have a radiator, it's going to have a whole bunch of other stuff. I'll show you it all before I start and we'll go from there. So let's get going. Okay, so if you've watched any of my videos before, you'll know I usually start with the motherboard already prepped. So I'm using some Kingston memory. CPU is already on here. It's a 5600X. If you want to know how to do that, I've already got a video on how to install the 5600X. And of course, I have my Western Digital 1TB NVMe drive on there. So other than that, we're going to use our Asus GTX 1650 Super graphics card. Case I'm going to use, so I'm just going to move over and show you that real quick. Okay, so here's our case. It's the Dark Base 700, and inside it, I'm going to be using the power supply, the Dark Power 12 850 watt power supply from Be Quiet as well. So all these factors are all going to come together. We're going to put it in here, fire it up. Hopefully everything goes and everything works right. So if you want to see the video on that, on the power supply, the case, motherboard, how to install the CPU, it's all been done. So I will have links at the end and throughout the video. So if you want to click on those, they'll be there for you. So that just eliminates a lot of the time used or needed to build a computer, show you the things that are most important that I think you need to see, and not waste too much time showing you the things that you will figure it out on your own anyway. Because a lot of this stuff is pretty easy. Putting in memory, not hard. CPU install, videos done on it. Motherboard, I did a review on it, so on and so forth. So the only thing I didn't do a review on, I think, was the graphics card. But I don't tend to do graphics cards, but a company starts sending them to me, well, maybe I would. But they're kind of pricey right now. So anyway, let's get on with the build. We're going to put the motherboard in first, and then we'll go from there. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do, because this motherboard does not have the I/O shield installed, is put it up in here. Okay, that opening right there. And all you do is make sure this is fastened going that way, because everything is going to push in from this. Okay, so this is the side you want to see when you're looking at the back of your case. All right, putting it in is simple. So you line it up, and you're just going to push it in place. You'll know when it's in there because you'll hear it click. See, there's one. And you will have to play with it. That's why I like the pre-installed I/O shields nowadays, because it's a whole lot easier. Okay, so that's all there is to it. Just push those down to the bottom. Make sure this is all in there. Because you don't want to forget that, because when you put your motherboard in, well, in order to put it in afterward, you're going to have to take everything back out. That is not a mistake you want to make. So the first thing I always recommend is set your case down. Make sure all your standoffs are in the right place for an ATX motherboard or whatever it is you're installing. Because this is an ATX, mini ATX, flex ATX, and micro ATX. So you can put multiple motherboards in here. So these will be positioned differently depending on your motherboard. You're going to line up your I/O shield in the back here with the back of your motherboard. So right here. All right. So we're going to line it up with that. And basically you're going to set it down first. You want to make sure that all these holes where your standoffs are going to go, make sure they all line up properly and are feeding through the holes in the back of your I/O shield. So I got everything lined up, but this one is just slightly off. So I'm going to put that one in first, and then I'm going to readjust as I need to. It's off just a little bit, but that can be enough to cause you trouble. So I'm just going to adjust this as much as I need to, which is not a lot, and then I'm just going to put my screw in. And then once I got that lined up, I know everything will probably be okay after that. So once I've made sure that one lines up, then I'll double check my holes again, make sure the standoffs, the screws are all going to go in without any problem. And then I'm just going to put the screws in each one of these standoff holes. Okay, so I opted not to go with the radiator this time. I'm just going to use a stock cooler because I don't really feel that it needs it. If down the road I see that the temps are rising up a little bit more than I like, well, then I'll switch it out then, because it's very simple to just pull this out, put the fans on, slide it back in. There's lots of room in the back for the back plate. Pull this off, and then we're good to go. So at this point, what we're going to do is going to hook up our power up here. So we've got an 8 pin and a 4 pin, and you have a 24 pin here. Those are the cables I'm going to do next. And once that's done, then we're going to do our front panel connectors down here, our USB 3.0, and our audio. That's pretty simple. I do have all the little plastic pieces for the front taken out right now. I'll put those back in before the end of the video. Now, you do have a second NVMe drive here. So if you ever want to add storage, you can always just pop this off and either add a 2 or a 4 terabyte NVMe drive and increase your storage just like that, very simply. Anyhow, let's go ahead and hook up the power. So on the back of this, of course, all our fans are in our hub. We find our 24 pin for power, which is right here. And I'm just going to feed that through whatever one is closest. I believe it's this one here, but we'll find out afterward. And then we have all these cables, which will be, I'm going to do those last. So that's not a big deal right now. And so we're just going to look for our CPU cable. So one of the things that is very nice with this case, I didn't plug in my CPU to the power. So it's because it's modular. I've got 2 of them here. So this is going to go into the power supply here. And then you got this cable, which is Be Quiet's power supply rather. The cable for the CPU is divided into 4 and 8. The reason being, if you are just plugging into the 4 in addition to the 8, you use this one. For using both, you just combine them together. And of course, the beauty of this is that it comes with 2 of them. So you got 2 cables, and you'll be able to use those no problem. So the nice thing, like I say, about this case, so let me just turn it around here, is I can pop this off and get to and be able to see everything from the front. So I just have to get in here, lift that up, because it's just in a little slot. And now I can see our slots to be able to plug this in. And let me tell you, when you can't take that off and you make a mistake like this, what winds up happening is you have to take your power supply out, and then you have to do everything over. Which is not a big deal, but it's kind of a pain in the butt. But now, all I have to do is find the slot that this one goes into, which will be in here, and plug it in. So I'm going to do that, and we'll come back. So just in case anybody was wondering, these cables go into the slot in here. It's called P8. So you line them up. You'll hear it when it pops in place. And then just feed them out through the back, and you're good to go. So really simple to do. So I just thought I would show that just to show you how easy it is with this case, and not many other cases actually, but this one in particular, how really easy it is, because this shroud comes off in the front to maneuver and put everything back. Now I took this out so I could get at it easier, and then this one's just going to go in the slot here for the drives. You can pick whatever one you want, put it back in, and we'll put our 24 pin in here, and we're going to put both pins in. Now you only need the 8, so just be aware of that. You only have to have the 8 pin. It will work just with the 8 pin. But the beauty of having the 4 pin is if you want to overclock at all, you're kind of going to need that extra power, especially if you're doing extreme overclocking. Now there's one thing I noticed on this and some of the other cases actually. When it comes to some of the Be Quiet cases, there's not enough room in the top or in the back when you try to feed that cable through. So you are going to need to loosen the place where your radiator would normally go. Just pull it out a little bit, then turn it around. And it's going to just be much easier for you to get your cable through. So CPU cable, just going to sit right there. And obviously we're going to have to figure out a nice way to tie that off. And our second one as well is going to go right in there. Same thing. Actually, I'm going to put that one there. Let's see which is better here. Okay, so both our cables are through. Let's turn it around, and Now once that's in, of course, you can put this back in place. So we're going to feed our cable here and this one here. We're going to put that one in first, and then we're going to pick the one that says P4, because it does make a difference in which one it is, because the tab is in a slightly different spot. And we'll put those in, and that'll be the system. Basically, at that point, it's powered up. You could start it up, and it would go without any issues. And your hard drive is already in there, so you'd be able to get to a boot screen. The only thing you need other than that is your graphics card. So I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to do that. I'll show you where those all go, how to put them in. Biggest thing is 24 pin. Remember that you got a tab. You have a tab on this side. Line them up. Make sure they go in the right way. There, I did a little bit of a close-up. So now you can see the 8 pin, the 4 pin, and the 24 pin a lot better. So you can see how everything is going to go. So we're just going to plug in. I'm going to do the 24 pin first. Now another nice thing is with the Beast Quiet power supply, they show you which end it can go on, because some people will try and put this little pin on the other end, but the arrows point together. So that'll just give you a little bit of an extra help. Push it a little bit until you hear it click in place. Now we're going to do the power. 8 pin and 4 pin. Okay, so that just, again, clicks in place. So let's put the 8 pin. Again, you'll hear that little click. And our power is now hooked up. Except, of course, the down here. Except, of course, hooking up our power so our buttons and everything for the case work. So something to keep in mind as well when you're building your PC, don't put your graphics card in first. And if you have a Wi-Fi adapter that you need, put it in after you put your graphics card in, or put it in before, whatever works best for you. But put those in last, after you've done your connectors on the bottom. Otherwise, it becomes almost impossible to even see them. So with this, that's what we're going to do next. We're going to do all the case cables down here, and then we'll proceed. Okay, so a few things I've done is I've tidied this up. I take the straps off, put the Velcro they give you, and tie it off a little bit. Makes it nice. Here's a little tip that I do. You don't have to, but it's up to you. I find it easier because the power supply fails for whatever reason. It happens occasionally. Do your cables for your power separate from all your other case cables. That makes it much easier to just disconnect them all and go ahead and replace your power supply. Otherwise, you've got to redo your entire cable management. You got to redo it all. So that's up to you whether you want to do that or not. Just my 2 cents. So let's look at some of the case cables. So we have this cable here, which is SATA. So we need to plug that in. We have one from our power supply. I'm going to use the very last one so that it frees up another cable here for hard drives, whatever I want to use in the future. So right on here, line it up with the little L and just put it in place. Okay. A lot of cases are coming this way nowadays. Once you do that, that's it. Now you can tuck this away. Okay, you can tuck it away inside here. And that'll be it for that. Don't worry about bending it. It doesn't hurt it that much. In fact, it doesn't hurt it at all. But, again, you keep that kind of near the front. Because what if you ever need it again? Then you can tuck these cables out of the way. We can deal with those later on. So this one here is for our RGB. All right, so you have 4 pins. So 4 pins means it's 12 volt, 4 pin RGB header that you're looking for on your motherboard. It's not addressable. An addressable one would be 3 pin so you have 3 of these, but the one in this one here, or this side, whatever one it is, there will be one missing, in other words. And you can use that for addressable. But this one here is RGB 12 volt. So we're going to look for that in the motherboard. So we're going to feed this through. We're going to do that. Probably going to feed it right through here. All right, just put that in there for now, just to get the cable going. Figure it all out after. Then you have your case cables, the other ones. So you have your hard drive LED, your PLED, positive and negative. You have your reset switch and your power. Okay, those all have to go fed to the front too. Again, and try and do these cables as best you can so that they're not interfering with anything later on. Okay, so the easier you manage these cables now, easier it is to do your cable management later. So put that through. I don't even know if this is the right spot. I'll have to confirm that. And this may change here in a minute. But just to give you an idea, I'm just trying to go over the cables for you right now with this particular case. So the audio cable is always pretty specific. Okay, so HD audio, it's always going to be probably around this side. So let's see if we can kind of move that. I'll have to figure out where that's going to go. This one can be tricky sometimes. If you can find a spot, you can feed it up through, but usually you can't. But there is a little spot down here, just above the power supply. So if I can feed that in through there and plug it in, I will do that. But we'll have to leave that just sitting there and see what happens. Other than that, you have your USB Type-C. Okay, just plugs into your motherboard as well. USB 3.0, or actually I think it's 3.1 or 3.2 now in this case. And this one here, cable, okay, there's one here called PWM cable. It's a 4-pin. That one does need to go to your motherboard. Okay, it doesn't go into your hub. All your other cables are coming from here. But if you want to control it, that cable has to go to your motherboard. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to put all these through to the other side, and we'll start plugging them in. Okay, so I did kind of go over the cables a little bit, just reorganize, put them through what I thought was the best slots. So we're going to go over them all over again just to show you, because I know this is where most people run into trouble. So there was a little slot back here to plug in our HD audio. So now that we've got that here, it's the very far left one on this particular motherboard. And again, that's the Tough Gaming XY70 Pro Wi-Fi. There is a little missing divot, so it's a solid. So you want to look for that on here and make sure that goes in the correct way. All right, this is the cable right here. Now, we have our USB 3.0, okay, right here. I didn't actually plug it in. So what I did is I actually put it through the bottom here, kind of tucked it underneath the motherboard. It's not pressing on or causing any trouble. And then I'm just going to push it in here, and that'll be it. But before I do that, then we have our fan, so our PWM, USB Type-C, and our other power fans, cases, and all that, which is going to go to the front power connector. And on the very top, now you could have chose one on the bottom, but there is an RGB on the very top up here. So when you connect that one, okay, look for where it says 12 volt. Typically there's going to be an arrow, but if there's not, just look for where it says 12 volt. Line that up where it says 12 volt, which is on the left in this case, and it will go in. And just be careful with it, because you don't want to bend pins or nothing like that. Anyway, once that's in, tuck your cable behind. You can do whatever you want. You can kind of try and hide it that way a little bit. Let the rubber kind of hide the rest of the cables best you can. Okay, not a biggie, but they gave you the little rubber pieces here, so go ahead and use them. Hide them as best you can, just for clean cable management. So RGB is plugged in. Now we're going to go USB Type-C, which is right here. It only goes in one way. It's kind of like USB-C, where once you got it lined up, it goes in, and it goes in very, very easy. This is one of the easier cables. And then we'll just slide this back as much as we can. Again, you can't put too much because you don't want to be pulling on this just for the sake of cable management, or you could damage it. All right. Now I'm going to do these ones next. Now this cable here is for the graphics card. It only has a 6-pin. It's all I could get a hold of these days, and at a good price at least. And now we're going to do all our cables. So I'm going to do a quick look at this just to verify, although it's always usually the same. Bottom is going to be your HDD LED. Doesn't matter if it goes in one way or the other. It will just go in the bottom too. So I'm going to do it first, and I'll look after. What the heck. Now your PLED, positive, negative. That's where you could run into trouble. So put them together, line them up, and just put them over top. Now the reason I do the one on the bottom is if you do the one on the top, then you can't see the bottom. Simple as that. So PLD, positive and negative. Positive is usually on the left, negative on the right. Just keep that in mind. And it's literally the only cable that matters. The other ones can go in the wrong way. It won't make a difference. I know some people used to tell me, oh, that's the wrong way. It doesn't make a difference. The only one that matters is the PLD, positive and negative. If you get that one wrong, you're going to have issues. Then you have your power and reset. Reset is usually on the bottom, power on the top. In case anybody's wondering. So reset, I'm going to do first because it's easiest one to see. Again, it doesn't matter which way it goes. So you put them right beside it. Push it in. Done. Okay, just I always like to double check. And then we do our power. And that goes on top of that again to the next two pins. That's our case cables. That's all there is for this. And again, we'll feed this through. Tuck this out of the way as best we can. Again, don't pull in these cables too hard, because these cables, if they're easy to be taken back off, and you don't want to pull on these pins and cause them to bend, because if you do that, well, your motherboard's pretty much pooched at that point. And so now our USB 3.0, I keep calling it 3.0, it's USB 3. How about that? There's a little tab in the bottom, here. Line them up. And once you got them lined up, clicks in place. Now I still have to put these covers on. So should be okay. Shouldn't there's clearance underneath. So even on this, there's clearance. So there's not going to be an issue. Although it might be a little tricky, but not that bad. So we got our PWM fan to plug in. Then we're going to move on to our graphics card, and that'll be pretty close to the end. So we're going to find a fan header to plug this one into. So your fan, pretty simple. You got a little tab on here, okay, right there. Line that up with the little tab that's on your fan header, chassis fan header, and plug it in, and it's going to go on pretty simple. I am trying to keep this as away from everything as much as I can, but it goes on pretty quick, just like that. And yeah, all our cables are now connected, so we're going to use this one, connect our GPU in here, and I think that's it. Then we're going to have to fire it up and see if it all worked, but I'll show you the back as well. I'm actually thinking I'm going to still install another SSD, I think, a 2 terabyte. I think that's what I'm going to do next. Okay, so we're going to move around to the back and show you where the SSD can be installed. Now you can install it in the front too, but then you won't be able to put these back on, just in case you're wondering. You do have room for 2 3.5-inch drives here if you want to do that as well. I just think SSDs and NVMe drives are the way to go today. So anyhow, let's continue. Let's turn this. We do need to do a little cable management. It's not terrible, but a little work. So installing our SSD is simple. We have a screw right here. I don't know. Yeah, it's pretty tight. So we'll just loosen this. Yeah, it's definitely on there good. So it's definitely not coming off. So when that comes off, I'll show you this. There's 2 little catches. See these 2 little tabs? There's 2 little tabs right there, just so you know how to put it back on. So I just want to show you. So you have 4 screws that goes into the back of this, and then you have a thumb screw that's going to go in here. Now this cable is going to be in the way. Okay, so I've got my SSD. I decided I'm going to put it with the cable connectors on top. So this is the one for your SATA from your power supply, and this is your data cable for SATA. Now I was going to put it down, but then this cable kind of gets in the way, and it's nicely managed, so I figured I'd just leave it there. So instead, I'm just going to leave it pointing up, and then it doesn't get in the way of anything. Can I hide this cable? Let me just see here. I could put it just like that. It doesn't interfere with anything. And that's it. So, take this cable, it's going to make it a little bit messier than I like, but otherwise I got to move all this, and I'm just choosing not to. Now I want to point one more thing out. There are two more mounting spots on both sides. If you want to put it up here completely out of the way, that's totally up to you if you want to do that. But it does allow you to at least install two more SSDs up there if you want to. Just so you know. So the cable I tucked away in here, and remember I said I'm going to leave the cable because I'm probably going to use it, and there we go. I am going to use it. So our cable right here is going to go line up the L, and it's going to go right here. Again, like I said, it's going to make a bit of a mess, so I'm going to have to play with this a little bit and decide where I really want this to go. Do I want it here, somewhere else? I don't know yet. I'm still figuring it out. So you are going to need another SATA cable. So this is going to go, this is the little L I'm talking about. So line it up with this. That's going to go through, you're going to feed it through here and find out where your SATA port. And that'll be all there is to it. Okay, so the SATA cable's here, and I know it's a mess. It won't be when I'm done. So I am going to put this through. I'm trying to tuck it behind all these other cables. Feed it through for my SATA. I'm going to have to figure out which one it comes through. And once I'm done, it won't be a mess. It'll be all nicely tucked away. And I'll do the same thing with this. Tuck it underneath. I'll show you afterward. You'll see it. It'll be all nice and tidy. Okay, so I fed my SATA cable through. You can put it in the top or the bottom. It doesn't really matter which one. It matters only if you're going to have like 4 different ones. And for some reason, you want to know exactly which one you're going to disconnect. So then you might want to have 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever you want to do. Okay, it's up to you. Or you can just follow the cable and do it that way. Makes ultimately no difference. Plug it in like that, simple, line up the L again, feed the cable back through. This is kind of a nice thing for this, is it just makes it easier to hide the cables. Again, this is just a PCIe cable. Everything is done now. I'm going to go around to the back again. I tidied this up a little bit. I'll probably tidy it up a little more here. Maybe one more cable there. I just ran one up through here, tied it off, and I'm gonna nice this up as nice as I can, and then we'll be ready to rock and roll. Okay, so one last look at the cable management. Everything's nicely put in there. This will tuck back real nice. Put my back panel on after. First things first, of course. And I'm going to put these back on, put my graphics card in, and we'll go from there. So a little bit left to do, but not too much. So you look at the little divots, you got a small one and a longer one. Just for those that are new to this, you got a small one here and a longer one. You have to remove probably the second and third. Usually that's typically what it is. And then slot it in. So we're going to remove these first and put our graphics card in. So that's not really a big deal. And I'm not even going to show it. I'm just going to show you this is where it's at. This one here. And this one here. Just so you know which ones they are. Okay, so we're going to insert our graphics card right here. If you got it, the right one's out, it'll just go in. Give it a little bit of force. You'll hear this little tab click in place. And then you're going to connect your power here. But you are going to need, I suggest just double check it's all lined up here in the back, okay? And then you're going to need to put these screws that we're holding these plates in to hold this in place so it's not sagging. Okay, so finish fashioning your 2 screws. And don't over tighten, just make sure they're snug. And that's it. Take your graphics card, for the power for your graphics card, okay? It'll say VGA, or most often, a lot of times, PCIe. Again, you got a tab, line the tab up with on here, and plug it in. Oh, might need to pull that up a little bit. Oh, that's not good. Don't want to pull it, I already need the cable management. All right. So in actual fact, that's pretty good. There. Kind of tucks it out of the way. I think we're ready. Okay, so I ran into one problem. Putting all these panels back on, this would not close fitting up that little hole because this had to fit in place. It's too bad they hadn't thought of that. Left a little bit of an opening on the other side. And this would have made it a lot cleaner instead of having to feed it all the way across and then tucking it out of the way. Anyhow, it's all in there. Power's on. Let's check and see if it actually turns on. So stay tuned. There you got the lighting on the side, which is pretty cool. I do like that, actually. Move this back a little bit so you can see it more. So there's our lighting. Okay, so it's up and running. Everything is going, no problem. Of course, if I turn my monitor on, I'll be able to find out if I'm getting a display, which is always helpful. And I am. There you go. Up and running. Another successful build. So I hope this build guide helped you. Alright, everybody, so hope you liked that video. It's a build guide just trying to give you some guidance on building your next computer in a pretty fantastic case. A lot of materials supplied to me by Be Quiet. The motherboard and everything else, that's on my own. It's running good. Now, I don't always go with a stock cooler, but I do tend to replace it later on. But it depends on how the temps are going. Sometimes it works just fine. So if you like the video, hit that like. If you don't, well, I guess there's no dislike. But anyway, leave me a comment and tell me what you didn't like. And tell me what you did like. And tell me what you'd like to see more of. And if you're new here, think about subscribing. Hit that bell for videos as they come up in the future for notifications. And thank you very much for watching.